Hey, good afternoon again. In our last video, we talked a little bit about doing market research, deciding if you even want to be an entrepreneur, thinking about the things that you're good at. And today I want to focus on the next few steps. And that is making the final decision of what business you're actually going to run. So now that you've looked at what you're good at and you've done some research on how a business operates, decide on one thing. If you want to do a trade like plumbing or being an electrician or whatever, starting a business in that field, pick one and focus on that. If you're going to start a store, decide what you're going to sell in that store and focus on that. Whatever business, whatever industry you want to start a business in, pick one idea and focus on that. Get really good at that one thing. Okay? So now that you've decided what you want to do, you have to think about what you're going to call the business. You got to come up with a name. So try to think of something that people can remember easily. Think of something that doesn't sound like something else, because you don't want to have any copyright issues. People freak out about that. So you want to try to avoid that at all costs. And then look it up. Look up that name in databases in your state. Usually your state or your country, if you're outside of the United States, likely has a Department of Commerce or a Department of Business or something like that. Here in the state of Utah, it's the Utah Department of Commerce. And on there you can look up business names in the state. So you could throw in there the name that you want, and it'll tell you if somebody else in the state already has that name or if it's free for you to pick. And if it is, you can file for what type of business you want, and with that name, and that name would be then reserved for you. Okay, so that's an important thing. That gives you a little bit of structure. The other thing you need to do with your state's Department of Commerce, or if you're in another country, I'm sure they have something similar, is to register as different. There's varying types of entities you can register as. So for a really small business, you have two decent options, really, that I looked into when starting mine. One is your S corp, and that I feel is more beneficial when you're making more money. If your business is making more than $50K a year, or you have multiple employees, an S corp is easier, because then you only get taxed on the money that you pay to yourself, not all of the income that your business makes. For me, I chose an LLC, and that means you're taxed on all the business that your company makes, not only the part that I pull as a salary. And that makes the most sense if it's just you, or you're making less than $50,000 in a calendar year. And that can change. So if your first year you choose an LLC, and that's usually what I'd recommend, is your first year or two, be an LLC. See how it works. Being an LLC is a little more forgiving. It's less complicated, so it's easy to learn. Do it that way for your first few years, and then in year 3 or 4, if you're still open and around by then, you can consider switching to an S corp or other structures if you've gone crazy big by that point. But those are a few things that you just want to do right after you've done all that market research. Pick an industry and pick one thing and focus on it. 2, come up with a name. See if it's available in your state or your country, and register that name so that nobody else can use it. And 3, decide how you want to be taxed and register your business as such. Anyway, if you like this content, give this video a like and subscribe, and we'll be making another video on how to run a business probably later this week.